So good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here and thank you for attending this final day of MCC presentations by Master Coaches. We have the pleasure of having this final day kicked off by Dr. Yvonne Young, who is a Master Certified Coach. He has a very impressive bio, which you can all read on our website. I'm going to just briefly share a few highlights and then I'm going to kick it off to him. Dr. Yvonne is a Master Certified Coach, as I said, has a global reputation at the intersection of behavioral neuroscience, emotional intelligence, and transformational coaching. He has a huge TEDx following and view experience, and is a professional fellow at the Institute of Coaching, which is a Harvard Medical School affiliate. He's called on frequently by national and international organizations, including ICF chapters, to bring his expertise and all the wonderful energy that he brings to the coaching community. And here he is now, Dr. Yvonne. Thank you for being here with us today. I welcome you and open it up for you to share anything else you'd like to share about yourself before you kick it off with this wonderful presentation today. You're on mute.
It would help if you could hear me, right? If you're in this class right now, you're meant to be here. Today, I'm going to facilitate this class on coaching the emotional brain. As you heard earlier, I'm Dr. Yvonne Young. I am a Master Certified Coach. Been doing this for a few minutes, and I hope that you find this entertaining. There's a lot of content, so to the extent possible, try to take a few notes. If you don't, the recording, I'm sure South Florida's chapter will have that available. And here we go. So in this class, I'm going to talk about how neuroscience informs empathy, presence, and change. So let's begin by deconstructing the myth of objectivity. What I want you to understand is that this is a belief that many of us are trained with, and we are often taught that to be a professional coach, we must be a natural observer, almost like an ethnographer, just having this blank slate where we don't affect the environment. Well, I'm going to tell you right now that biological neutrality is a myth. I had a mentor, a guy named Wayne Dyer. Wayne used to say, "We are all one." Now, I believe in Wayne's lectures that he meant that more spiritually, but today I'm going to bring that in with a newer neuroscience aspect. After years of practice and research, I've seen that neuroscience proves it's biologically a component. And here's what I mean. We are what scientists call open loops. My nervous system, your nervous system, doesn't stop at your skin. See, the science, research in interpersonal neurobiology shows that our limbic systems are constantly doing a handshake. If I show up in a session, or if you show up in a session and you're carrying with you in that session anxiety about your performance or stress from what happened that morning, your body is broadcasting a frequency to the client before you even ask the first question. Put mildly, ladies and gentlemen, we are always leaking our truth. Our initial conversation is going to start with me blending, and you're going to see this throughout the lecture, ICF core competencies, the science, as well as the methodology. So let's start with this competency number 2. And that competency is embodying a coaching mindset. Now, the ICF defines embodying a coaching mindset as being open, being curious, and flexible. But you cannot be truly open if your biology is closed off by you being stressed. To embody a coaching mindset, You must regulate your biology. Now, let's dig a little deeper. I want to talk to you about the cost of this when you do what I call head first coaching. How many of you have finished a day coaching and you feel completely drained? Or not even a day with some clients, you could just be completely drained after you had that one client, right? Well, that's happening because you're coaching from the head. And what we're doing is we're sitting across from this person, eyebrows, furrowing our eyebrows and trying to manufacture the powerful question, the perfect question. It's like we're trying to solve a puzzle. But in reality, here's what's really happening. That effort puts your brain into a high beta wave state. Now, you might be asking, Dr. Young, what in the heck is beta waves? Sure, here's the answer. It's pure stress masquerading as competence. See, when you're stressed, you don't have to say anything. And I think many of you will buy into this example. You ever had someone you love, care about, if you're a parent, a child, if you're a friend, your friend, or someone that matters to you, and you ask them, hey, how you doing? And they say, well, I'm all right. And the first thing that comes out your mouth or into your head is, no, you're not. Well, here's the tragedy. When you're stressed, either because of performance anxiety, you're new to coaching, or you've got some other stuff on your mind and you're more concerned about making it through this 45 minutes or this hour than you are being present, your client feels it. And what happens when they feel it, there's a part of the brain, and I'm going to have a graphic up a little later, but just stay with me for this. If you could imagine, if I could take your finger and stick it right up where your throat connects to your head, and stick it straight back from the tip of your nose and meet in the middle, that is the limbic system. And what we're going to talk about today is how to take control of that thing. Now, in my book, this book is not out yet, but write the name of it. It's called Leading from the Heart. It will be out, I think, in March of 2026, about the end of the month. We go into a deep dive on this, but I talk about how we accidentally block our clients by trying too hard to help them. We force logic and then we lose connection. Now, remember, the frequency you're on, it matters more than the words. I call this another connection to competency is the third one, where we establish and maintain agreement. Now, we usually think of agreements as contracts, but there's a deeper agreement in the energetic agreement that we have with a client. Our mindset, if you're writing anything down, write this down, is we must enter into that session with the intention of, I agree to be a safe space for you. See, if you are stressed, you are breaking that unspoken agreement of psychological safety. Now, there's this thing I want to talk about, and that's the anatomy of safety and resistance. Specifically, the amygdala hijack. Shakti, put that visual up if you'd be so kind. And the visual will also be in the chat. So if you're like me and you can't see that little bitty writing, go ahead and go in the chat and just download it. And this is not getting ready to change into anatomy and physiology class or neurobiology, but I just want you to see what it is we're shutting off and what we're turning on. Now, let's look at the hardware we're dealing with. If you look at the emotional brain, that's the image that's red. you will see the amygdala. We call it the fear center, but I call it the sentinel for of the ego. It's constantly asking the question, am I safe? Am I being judged? Does this coach think I'm tripping? Or why is he looking at me like that? See, if the client feels even a hint of judgment from you, that amygdala, that little bitty almond-shaped gland in the middle of your brain, goes off like an alarm on your car or an alarm in your house. And when that horn goes off, here's what happens. It steals the blood flow from the prefrontal cortex. Now, that's the thinking brain. That's that image that's on the right in blue. Put another way, that logic center just goes dark because the amygdala has hijacked the blood flow. It's hijacked the electrical chemical gradient that the brain functions on. And what happens is, even if you are asking the most powerful question in the room, a well-framed question, that requires the prefrontal cortex to participate. But if your client is in a state of fight or flight and the amygdala has hijacked all the resources, it's lights out. Now, you cannot coach a client who is in a hijacked state or a fight or flight state. It's like trying to download a large file, but you don't have any Wi-Fi. So how do you restore the connection? That's ICF competency number 7, evoking awareness. See, you cannot evoke awareness in a brain that is in survival mode. True awareness comes from the executive brain. Your job isn't to force the awareness, but to calm the amygdala so that awareness can naturally engage. I want to talk to you about something called polyvagal theory and the thinking face, okay? Polyvagal, polyvagal theory. This brings us to what Dr. Stephen Porges calls neuroception. It's the body's surveillance system. It reads, like right now, while you're listening to this lecture, it's reading my tone of voice, my eye contact. It's also picking up on these little micro cues if there's tension in my voice, if there is a relationship where I look and sound one way, but my body language is saying something totally the opposite. Here's a hard truth. Many of us, when we're coaching, we like to put on the thinking face. I think it's something that when we were a child, we were probably watching some show like 60 Minutes on authority figure. And when it was time to look serious, they went, had this weird face. And, in television, there's so many things that are setups that kind of position the viewer to be predisposed to how they receive that face. In Westerns, they always have the camera angle shooting up. Or if you look at Mission Impossible and Tom Cruise is as big as Tom Thumb. The man is like 5'4", but they always shoot him up, right, to make him look bigger. Well, here's the problem. When we have thinking face, there is no camera crew and a lighting crew that is subconsciously getting your client to see you in a cinematographic light, or it's not happening. So your thinking face to them more than likely looks like a judging face. Now think about it. You're sitting there trying to look interested. And more than likely, you are staring, You may even look like a frown. Bottom line, you look too damn intense. So what we want to do is be vulnerable to the client, because in our vulnerability, the client will, there's a thing called a mirror neuron. The client, especially if they're new, or maybe they're introverted, or maybe they're scared, or let's say you're coaching someone and you're from the majority of population and that person is part of the marginalized population, they are going to bring their trauma to the room just like you're bringing your stuff to the room. And what ends up happening, something as simple as you trying to look like you're paying attention, it looks like a threat. They shut down, and we wonder why the session went flat. You're like, I'm and what happened? All the air feels like it's sucked out of the room. So, as a coach, your first layer of responsibility to your client and being aware of that coaching presence is to soften yourself. We need to train our faces and our voices to send signals of safety. Now, let me explain this. When you're a child, think about a baby. Just think about in a normal pregnancy or in a house where there is no abuse, no stress. How do people talk to a newborn? Ah, oh. See, very soft, non-threatening tones are used. Now, when your little butt gets to be about a year and a half old, and you should have been potty trained, but you had that accident, or you trying to go stick a fork into the electric socket or doing something weird, you hear that first shock of stop, hey, quit, right? Well, when that happens, your limbic system is realizing that, hey, oh, wait a minute, that's not how they usually talk to me. That's not how this usually goes. And that training, and between sometimes as early as 9 months old, but between 9 and 18 months old, your brain and your amygdala and your limbic system is encoding that if someone looks at you a certain way, if there's a certain pitch, tone, and inflection in their voice, you're about to get it, you're in trouble. And see, by the time we're 3 years old, that has become ingrained. And for us, we call that shame, we call that guilt, and we call that fear. So, as a coach, do you really want to do the exact opposite of why these people are paying you? And that's to put them in a state of mind where they are scared, where they feel fear, where they're uncomfortable. So, your first lesson in today's lecture is coaching presence, an ICF competency, and establishing that presence means more than just you sitting in a chair or you're on the phone or you're screen to screen. What that really means is, what are you presenting? What is going on that you are bringing into the room in terms of ambience and environment, just predicated on your behavior? Now, here's the next key. These aren't just nice behaviors. What I'm teaching you right now is you are unlocking with biological keys your client's defense system. Here's ICF competency number 6: listens actively. I like to modify that and call it assertive listening, listening with intention. Now, active listening is usually taught as you just, being overly focused on hearing the words. I'm not going to say that's not part of it, but deep listening includes listening to things that aren't audible. You can't hear of facial expression. Unless somebody got on a hell of a lot of makeup, which, okay, that's a joke. Never mind, I'll leave that alone. But the point is, you cannot hear a facial expression. You cannot hear wounds that have perfected masquerading as happiness. So this deep listening includes you listening to the client's nervous system. Dr. Young, how in the hell do I do that? Glad you asked. Ask yourself, are you listening to the silence? Because there's different types of silence. Are you listening to the resistance? Or does your face show that you are listening? And I'm going to use this word, you don't have to. But are you listening with love? Or are you listening with judgment? Now, I want to give you the physics of presence. I want to introduce you to a concept that I've spent the last few years developing, and it's heart coherence as the intervention. The heart-brain connection is a real thing. Now, this is something that you typically do not get taught in the best of coaching programs. So I'm going to fix that. We move down. Remember that. Just simple statement. We move down. WMD. Most of us think of that as a weapon of mass destruction. But what we want to do is we want to move down from the head to the heart. See, science tells us that the heart is the most powerful oscillator in the human body. It has a magnetic field that is 5,000 times stronger than the magnetic field of the brain. When I talk about this and leading from the heart, what I'm talking about is generating coherence. It's a smooth, rhythmic heart pattern that literally tells the brain all is well. Now, remember what I said about these mirror neurons. A good example. I want you to think about you hold a baby, and when that baby gets to where they have good vision, typically between 7 months to a year, you look at the baby and you go, hey, and the baby go, hey, and smile back, right? That is nothing that is taught. We are pre-wired to reflect back what's in the environment because it's a survival strategy. I like to say to coaches that you want to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. You see, a thermometer just reflects the temperature in the room. And that could be your own junk. You could have come to this session having your representative there rather than yourself. You got marital issues, you got too much month left at the end of your money, whatever. You may be ill, you may be caring for a sick parent, but you're gonna keep up your upper chin and come to the room. And what you don't realize is that you have raised the temperature in that room or brought it down to freezing. When we function as the thermometer, if the client is anxious, you get anxious. But if you're the thermostat, you set the temperature in the room. And you do that first by regulating yourself, regulating your heart. See, you can change the atmosphere of an entire call by just doing something so simple as this. And this is another ICF competency that says maintains presence, that, number 5. But I want you to think about it. Let's just say that you're human and you are taking care of a mother that has dementia, or you have a child that has a chronic issue. and you rush to try to get to this session. You need the money and you really do care about your clients. Folks, it is okay to be human. It is okay to tell your client, do you mind if we just take a breath real quick? And girl, it ain't for you, it's for me. You can just be honest. I teach a master class every Wednesday at 6 p.m. So if you guys want to join that, you can type in Dr. Devon Young, what is that, coach credentialing prep course. And if you register for it, you don't have to pay and sign up, but just registering, I think you get a link to attend the class and it's perfectly free. And we talk about this a lot. But when you say to your client, hey, excuse me, what you're doing is you're taking the amygdala and you're telling it, chill. And as I told you earlier, the amygdala is stealing resources from the thinking brain, from the prefrontal cortex. So by you interrupting that in yourself first, my new book, Leading from the Heart, talks about self-empathy and self-compassion in leadership, right? And how it affects sustained adherence and clinical outcomes. And you want that as a coach. See, maintaining presence is the holy grail of the coaching profession. I don't care if it's the ICF or any other international coaching body. Presence has the same definition, and that's being fully conscious, fully aware, and listen to how I'm going to say this, while you co-create this environment with your client. So where I'm going with this is presence is a psychological state of regulation. You cannot maintain presence if your heart rate is erratic, if your client is showing checked out. Now, I want to give you something to think about. Presence and calm are not the same thing. So some of you think, well, I just want to be calm. No, the hell you don't. Because if your client is sitting there crying, you do not want to be calm. That makes you look insensitive, right? Or if your client is experiencing a win and they're sharing that with you and you're calm, you're pulling the energy down. So presence is about being intentional and having a state of entrainment, and that's ENTRIANMENT. And what we're talking about is the physics of entrainment. So let me help you to visualize this. Let's say I have a tuning fork. I take the little thing and hit it, and it gives off this frequency. Listen to that word, this frequency. Well, you're the tuning fork, you're the regulated coach. And I have that tuning fork next to one that can resonate at the same frequency. Well, when I strike the one in my left hand, the one in my right hand is going to vibrate, even though I didn't touch it, at the same frequency. See, physics calls this entrainment. It's magic when we do that in a coaching session, because all of us give off a frequency. And if you have a frequency of deep, unwavering peace, your client's chaotic nervous system has no choice but to sync up with you. You don't have to do anything. You just have to be at peace. Now, what you are doing here, you're literally loaning your client your prefrontal cortex. You're loaning them your calm. I believe as a coach, that's one of the greatest things we offer is emotional regulation. Here's the ICF connection, competency number 8. When your client feels safe, seen, and secure, That's when competency number 8 is possible, and that's facilitating growth, right? But growth doesn't happen unless your client feels safe. By entraining your nervous system with theirs, you create the biological conditions where growth is possible. And what you're actually doing is you could visualize just, clearing the weeds so the seeds can grow. Now, let's move this from theory to practice. A lot of us, especially extroverts, we can't handle not having something going on. Extroverts gain energy from being around people. And extroverted coaches in particular, they just want to fill the silence, because when it's not full, the ego gets nervous. It's like, am I doing okay? Because extroverts, kind of like a dolphin sending out a sonographic signal. They send out the signal, it hits something, refracts, and bounces back. And the dolphin knows, oh, okay, I can't go there. I can go through here. Now, the same is true for an introvert. But the problem is the introvert is just that, an introvert. So can't nobody read your doggone mind. And the things that you're thinking, maybe if you said them, it would be the equivalent of me shining a light to an airplane if I'm stuck on an island. I can be down there doing this all day. They're not going to see me. But if I just shine that light, that means that they say, hey, that's not a natural occurrence. It has rhythm to it. And that's what we do when we allow the sacred pause. Now we can see the light flash. Now we can allow the client to respond to that powerful question that you came up with. But as a novice coach, or sometimes a coach that's just really into the session, we're so ready to ask another doggone question to prove that I'm worth my fee. Stop doing that. When we interrupt the silence, we interrupt the miracle. I'm going to say that again. When we interrupt the silence, we interrupt the miracle. We're pulling the client out of an introspective state. When we do that, we just fractured the coaching session. I had another word that starts with an F. No, not that word. Something's wrong with y'all. I wasn't going to say that. But when we fracture the silence, we just undid the work. See, integration happens. Awareness happens. Insight happens in the silence. I'm going to tell you a corny story. If you've heard me say it before, just be like, he's old, he does that. But the story is this. I had a colleague of mine that we were having this conversation, and it was, room MDs, PhDs, Psych Ds, and this guy said, in my career, I remember early, I had this session with this client, and they had just started using I don't remember what the one was before Zoom that everybody used, but it was kind of like Zoom. And the guy said, he didn't really know how to use it. So he logs on with the client, and once they start talking, he accidentally hit something and caused himself to go on mute. So the client was just talking, and he would ask a question. And my colleague said, man, I'd ask a question. The client just damn ignored me, and just kept on talking. And then, you get quiet. So, we stopped talking. I'd ask another question. It seemed like hell, he'd ignore me. He'd start back up talking again. And then he realized about 40, 35 minutes in, he had the damn mute button on. So the guy was not hearing it. Well, here's the funny part. At the end of the session, the client told him, man, that's the best session I've ever had with you. Right? And that's true, because here's what happened. The guy didn't get interrupted. Nobody Shut him down. See, when we interrupt the silence, we interrupt the miracle. Integration happens in the quiet. Now, here's the neuroscience. When a client has insight, the brain needs a moment to write that code in. I'm going to say it again. When the client has insight, the brain needs a moment to write that code in. That happens in the silence. If you want to hear a clinical term, that's called neurogenesis. They are literally creating new neural networks when they solve a problem. That's why you're addicted to playing Candy Crush or whatever it is on your phone. That's why we like the idea of solving a puzzle. Now, when you practice the sacred pause, when they finish speaking, especially for you extroverts, just take one deep breath before you respond and then talk to them. Or you could tell them, I do it with my clients. You could just tell them, hey, look, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a deep breath right quick. Now repeat what you just said. Now, why would you do that, Dr. Young? Real simple. It's metacognition. I'm having you use different parts of your brain, the Broca area, the Wernicke area. The Broca area is when you figure out what you're going to say. Wernicke area is interpreting the meaning. So if I say to my client, pause, take a breath, what are you shutting down? You're shutting down the limbic system, the amygdala, by telling them, excuse me, pause. Take a breath. You're activating the prefrontal cortex by being intentional and saying, I need you to repeat what you just said. And then say to your client, are you listening to yourself talk? Say it again. See, when you do that 3 times, your client is actually moving something from short-term store to long-term store in the memory. Just remember that. Now, let's talk about self-regulation because I know time is flying by. People, you cannot give what you don't have. If you are running on empty, how the hell are you going to fill somebody else's cup? Remember, before you click start meeting or before you hit send, before you say, come on back, I want you to lock your heart in. Before you do any of that, just close your eyes for a minute. Drop your focus to your chest and breathe through your heart. See, you thought I was going to say, take a deep breath and go, no. Shut it down, close your eyes, and really breathe through your heart. Try it right now. Just close your eyes. Don't you go to sleep. All right, now close your eyes and just picture yourself breathing through your heart. Feel the appreciation. And see, it only takes a couple of minutes to do that. You can open your eyes, wake up. See, somebody, who is that went to sleep? Never mind. Okay. But this is a cure for burnout. It's also a way to bring down the noise when you feel overwhelmed. In other words, if we continue to coach from the head, we deplete our batteries. But when we coach for the heart, we plug into source, is what I like to call it. Some people call it the spirit, some people call it God, but I call it coming into the higher self, right? Now, you should finish a session feeling more energized and not less. And to do that, it's competency number 1. You just have to demonstrate ethical practice, not so much for your client, but for you. See, it's an ethical issue to coach when you're dysregulated. We owe it to our clients to show up clear, to show up clean and coherent. Now, in closing, what I want to say is we've covered the conversation about the amygdala, as the lock and the heart as the key, about presence as the hand that turns it. Neuroscience gives us a map, but your empathy is the compass, right? And I'd love to hear your thoughts, but before I do that, because we have another, am I right? Do we have like 30 more minutes where I could put people in breakout groups?
We have until, actually, we have until 10, so a few minutes till 10. So we're good.
Okay, okay. All right, cool. So here's what I want to ask you. By a show of hands, how many of you guys would like to practice what I just told you, what I just taught? Okay, okay, cool, cool. So here's what I like. How many people do we have present?
We have 23, including the two of us. So
Okay, okay, so 25. Let's break this into 5 groups of 5. Put me in a group, put you in a group. And here's what I want to do. When you get in the group, I want the person that is the most experienced coach to be the coachee and the least experienced coach to be the coach. And what I want you to do is just ask the question, what's going on with you? And the coachee, I want you to have some type of problem. It may be a real problem you're having, it may be a fake problem you're having. And the goal for the coach, the person that's being the coach, is to first be aware of your presence, to be aware of your facial expression, the pitch, tone, and inflection in your voice. And I want you to ask simple questions like, how are you? Or I'm observing a wrinkle in your brow. Don't tell nobody you look sad because you don't know what that means. Somebody could have gas. You don't know what that means, right? But you want to describe what you're seeing to the point that, I see a wrinkled forehead. I see you looking down. I'm noticing that you're not your usual self. And to the coachee, I want you to let that coach sit in silence for a moment and then you speak up. Now, the goal for the person that is doing the coaching is not to jump in prematurely. Okay, we're going to do this exercise for about, let's give it 10 minutes, and that will give 2 people a chance to do it. So at the 5 minute mark, we'll pop in and tell you switch, and someone else can take the role of the coach. Someone else can take the role of the coachee. Everybody understand?
a
Any
quick note, we actually have 22 people, so I just created groups of 3, and there's one with 4 people in it.
That's fine. Let's do it.
Um,
5 minutes and 5 minutes. Let's go.
okay. All right. Hold on. Open all the rooms. All right. You guys should be seeing that now.
Shakti, I'm gonna have to leave in a little bit and switch to my phone, so I won't be able to join the rooms.
Okay, let me see where you
I
are.
just clicked not now.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
And then I don't know. Elspita, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Were you able to attend one of the rooms? Okay, thank you, Nicole, for letting me know. Find you here. Elspita, will you be able to join us in a breakout?
Taught at I've taught at NYU, I've taught at University of Texas. I've done these master classes in Hong Kong, Africa, whatever. And I've seen this pattern where they don't teach coaches how to coach the person, they teach them how to coach the problem. And I'm going to give you an example of the right and wrong way to do that. So here's the wrong way. Hey, doc, man, what brought you in today? Oh boy. I had this job. I worked for this idiot, basically. This guy, you can't tell him nothing. You know, he takes my ideas and tries to present them like they're his, and he doesn't even have any ideas. I'm sick of it. Ah, well, doc, man, yeah, I'd be sick of it too, bro. So tell me more about your boss. That is not how you do that. It is totally not how you do that. And here's why. The minute you start coaching the problem, or you get to a place where you're trying to get alignment with the other coach, I mean, with the client, you're either going to be overly aligned or under aligned. So don't even try to get aligned. Instead, do this. Here's the example. Hey, doc, see, you got on the calendar this week. What's going on? Man, I'm the only person that looks like me on my job, right? And I'm working for this guy that I don't even know how he got to be anybody's boss. He doesn't have any ideas. He steals mine. And he's just an idiot. I mean, wow. What I heard you say is that you're working in an environment where you feel unseen. Yeah, that's not it. I mean, unseen doesn't even get close to describing how I feel. I see you're rubbing your hands together. I hear the tone in your voice. Share more. Now, if you notice what I did not try to cheer him up. I did not try to talk about his relationship with his boss. What I did was first, remember, this is about coaching presence, right? I made sure that I was emotionally regulated so that my client can get out of the limbic fight or flight, the limbic hijack. The technique I used was mirroring, and that was verbal mirroring. That's what a reflection is. What he said, I just repeated it back somewhat and used some of my own words. And see what happens with that. There's a chemical in the brain called oxytocin. We typically see that when a mother gives birth to a baby and she's had a vaginal tear and labor for God knows how long. What happens when they lay that baby on mama's chest? That pain for at least that moment goes away. And you have this prolific release of oxytocin and endorphins. Well, when we make our clients feel safe, when we make them feel heard, and when we make them aware that we are right there with them. And then the other thing you noticed I did is I didn't say nothing. I left a blank space. And if you recall earlier in the lecture, what I said to you was that that is our way of shutting down the amygdala and the limbic system so that we can have the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of the brain, activate. Now, I want to, and I'm going to say this to all of you. I thank God Shari was in our room, because you could tell she went to a really good coaching program that gave her a strong foundation. But what all these coaching programs don't do is teach us the science and the why behind the structure that's used. So it'd be the equivalent of me, teaching you all the rules of the law, but you don't understand the spirit of the law. It would be me teaching you to be legalistic, but not understanding why the rules exist in the first place. So if I say you ran a stop sign, well, wouldn't it be better if I told you, look, that stop sign is there because in the last 5 years there wasn't one, and we had about 9 accidents. And I know this neighborhood doesn't have a lot of traffic, but almost 50% of the accidents in this neighborhood happen right here. That's why that stop sign is there. Well, you see, when you understand the context, the content is more meaningful. And that's what we want to do in coaching. And the purpose of this class today was for me to get you guys away from templative, mechanistic, cookie cutter coaching techniques. Because here's what's really up. Do you want to make money, and do you want your practice to grow? Does anybody not have that as a goal? Okay, so we're all sane. The truth is, people could care less to some degree about the credentials behind your name. Some people get an ACC as a box check so they can say, you know what, I'm with ICF, I have credentials. I hope that you move past that, because you're doing yourself a disservice if that's how you're thinking. If you've got your PCC, then that means professional certified coach. Well, you should act like a professional, which means attending things like this, but more than just getting you another certificate in 1.5 more hours or 20 hours. You need to increase your capacity and your competence, because what you want and what's going to be the number one thing and your coaching revenue every year is going to be the fact that people feel seen and that they experience self-efficacy and autonomy. So these tools like motivational interviewing and appreciative inquiry, the trans-theoretical model of change, all of those different theorems, they exist for a reason. And we want to move you away from this mediocrity and coaching performance and take you to a place where you make more money. And the way you do that is by being damn good. The way you do that is by being able to say, you know what, I did my coaching program at Florida State, Florida A&M, and they didn't teach me this. I've got a few people in here from my MasterClass. And if I may call on you, Ann Nichols, unmute yourself. Can you tell me the difference in what you're getting in the MasterClass? And this woman is a national board certified health and wellness coach. How different is being taught the science and evidence of coaching from that cookie cutter stuff?
Well, I have definitely personally experienced this. I feel like now, having worked with you on the neuroscience, along with coaching methodology, I have a greater capacity to authentically support people. And what I find is people come back. People come back. I feel, like you said, it's rare to feel seen and heard and supported on this level.
Yeah, it's so true. So I know this sounds for many of you like, well, dang, doc, you just destroyed my stuff. No, I am enhancing your stuff. And my goal with you is when you talk to a client, I want that client to get off from you feeling like, you know what? I didn't solve my problem, but I damn sure have a whole lot better grasp on what it is and how it's affecting me. As coaches, we don't have to solve the problem. Matter of fact, to be totally honest with you, we want people to deal with the problem and look at how is this problem affecting you? What is it taking from you? What is going on because this situation, this person, this frame of mind that you have, what's going on with its relationship to you? And how is that relationship between you and this thing, this person, this situation, contributing to your vision for your life? We don't have to do this mechanistic stuff. We don't have to do this cookie cutter stuff. But what we do and must do is make our client feel coaching presence by us being fully present and putting them first. I'll open the floor for questions.
Thank you,
I have
Dr.
a comment.
Yvonne. Shari, go ahead, please.
Oh, I have a comment. I'm glad that you brought that up because I only had opportunity for 2 questions. And the second one, I purposely did as well. I do not ask those questions. That second one, someone did that to me, and I wanted to see your thoughts on that. So thank you for sharing.
Well, first, I want to commend Sharif for putting up with my mess, because that just shows the level of character and poise you have. So thank you for your patience. We learn bad coaching techniques from people that have letters behind their names. And it is very unfortunate. But again, I'm going to say you can't do better till you know better. I've been doing this 20 years. I lecture to physicians and psychiatrists, psychologists, psych Ds, what have you. And the thing that we lose sight of as a coach is we are an organic mirror reflecting back to the client the relationship they have with their trauma, with their challenges, with their biases, with their frame of mind. And if we're going to reflect back, do you want to be that mirror in the fun house like, hey, look, you see that big old bump on your nose? Or do we want to be the mirror that says, hey, what's going on with you? You keep touching your nose. What's going on? I got this bump. Wow. What's that about? We want the client to first get some awareness around the issue, because you cannot facilitate awareness, competency number 7, and then get growth without awareness. And as coaches, we have one goal, and that's for our client to be aware of how they're being affected by what's going on around them. So I would like to hear a comment. What did somebody observe when silence was used, and how did it make you feel? I'm talking to the coachees. How did it make you feel when somebody gave you room to think and answer?
Doc, I'll go.
Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, it was great. Zandy gave me, when she stepped away, it really gave me the chance. I mentioned I was feeling anxiety, and then she gave me that time to breathe. And I said, you know what? I don't think it's anxiety. I think it's overwhelm. I think I'm anxious, but it's really more the fact that I'm putting too much on my plate. So by giving me that space to consider what I just said, it gave me the opportunity to go deeper and those words and go word for word. Did I mean the words I just said? And is that what I meant to say? So I loved it. And I think she did a beautiful job.
Wonderful commentary, because that's exactly what the silence is for. Our clients lie to themselves a lot. They think they can't do things that they can do. They think they have stuff under control that's not under control. And the reason being is they're being performative. Dana in our group, she made this comment. And I don't know if it was real or imagined, but it was a great visual. She said, I'm in this situation where I'm moving from one state to another. And that in itself is a big deal. But everybody in my family is expecting me to figure out the logistics and to sort all this out. And
Yeah. Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead, Dana, go ahead.
Yeah, and I must say I did learn so much just from that little snippet with you and Shari. It was amazing. The silence for me did allow for more introspection, and it allowed me to take a look at, maybe some things that I'm being unrealistic about. So very, very helpful. But furthermore, it really allowed me to step back from one of my last sessions, which wasn't really successful. And now that I'm reflecting on that, I feel like I was working more tactically in that session and didn't move into transformational. And I was really hustling for, problem solving. So this entire presentation has really, really been helpful because you know what, that client didn't come back, and I didn't really um I think allow that person to um introspect, and I moved, specifically into the sort of the tactical arena, and transformation and anxiety and the amygdala hijack was still performing. And so it wasn't a great session, but with this new, awareness, it really is extremely helpful. So thank you for that. And thank you, Shari, for the demo.
Someone else, what questions? Let's take a few questions.
I have a quick question. That's okay. The observation that some programs don't equip us with these insights. I would say, I guess my question is, why do you think that is?
I'm going to be honest with you. When I was creating this credentialing prep course, one of the things that distressed me was I would lecture I had just done a lecture, one in Asia and one in New York. And I just noticed here are these people with these advanced degrees. And I would say, okay, well, let's do a coaching session. Let me hear what you got. And they would do this, they would do this thing where it was like, okay, and it was so templated. Well, so and what did you just say? All right. And I'm like, okay, are you even listening to this person? You have not once said to this individual anything they've said to you. You have not once reflected back to them some of their fears, some of their concerns. What's up with that? And it's not okay. I believe that these people, many of my colleagues that have very big names, they were much more concerned about the money that they were going to make. And I'm not trying to be rude or condescending, and let me get all these boxes checked so they can certify my course. Like my credentialing prep course, you get 35 hours if CCEs with it. Well, they were more concerned about the 35 hours and getting the ICF badge saying this thing is approved than the content and the quality of the content. And there is no excuse for it because they know better. And what I've learned, even at like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, UC Berkeley, those schools, they teach motivational interviewing, and they teach all of these tools in a coaching toolkit, but they don't teach you why they exist. They don't teach you their relationship to the competencies. And more than anything, they don't teach you the science behind using them. Something like motivational interviewing, Miller and Rolnick, that book is this thick. So if it's that thick, is it really something that's shallow or dialectical and behavioral or cognitive therapy? I mean, what? So what we are missing as a group is the longevity factor of coaches and setting them up for success. I want you guys to make $300,000-400,000 a year. I've been making that for the last 15 years. I've had people come to me with these click funnels and all this crap. And, everybody that's called me, I'll ask them, well, how'd you hear about me? They say, well, so-and-so referred me, or I Googled you. I Googled, put your name in chat. I put in chat a descriptor and you were what they recommended. See, in other words, when you create content, write blogs, when you optimize your website by conveying who your client is and what problem do you serve for them. If you spend your resources on that, you're going to get a hell of a lot more money than putting ads on Facebook and giving your money away to Google. Because smart people don't click on Google ads. They go and look at organically what is the first thing that comes up. If you put in high net worth life coach and Google, anywhere in the world, I'll come up in the top 3. I didn't pay for an ad on Google. I'm not going to pay for an ad on Google. So there are things that you can do now, but the most significant thing you can do is to increase your competency. Here's what I want you to do. If you'd be so kind, just type in my name, kind of like you see on that picture I sent you. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll send you a link to my either my mentor coaching program or to my coach credentialing prep course. I helped write the ICF exam. Carrie Abner, the head of credentialing for the ICF, wrote the foreword for Leading from the Heart. And so did Margaret Moore. She co-wrote it. And that's the founder of the Institute of Coaching at Harvard University. Richard Boyaskis, one of the leading psychologists in the world, was the first to come out and say, hey, Dr. Young's methods work, and I'm endorsing his books and his work. So, this isn't a brag. I'm telling you that because I care about you succeeding. I want each one of you to, if you made 100 grand last year, I want you to make 200 this year. But I want you to make it and be happy. And I want you to make it and have your clients walk away. And if you read my reviews, the clients come and they say, you know what? He challenged me. He told me like it is, but he cared about me and he loved me and he put me first. That's the secret to being successful at coaching. But go to LinkedIn, Dr. D, put the D in front of Yvonne, just Dr. D like in Derek, D space Yvonne, spell like Ivan, Young. And if you want to get in that Wednesday class, I'm teaching it tonight. It's not going to cost you a dime. And that's not a bait and switch like, hey, come to my class, I'll sell you something. No, the class is free. It's my contribution to coaching. I'm an ICF Business Solutions partner. My blogs are featured on the ICF Global website. My work has been featured in Forbes and the European and in Black Enterprise Essence, Huffington Post. So the work is out there. But all I care about is you being a phenomenal coach and being successful in your practice.
And I just shared the link to your LinkedIn page in our chat for anyone, if you guys didn't see that, if you'd like to connect there. Make it a little easier.
Oh, the last thing. My most recent book was my first best-selling book, Break Up, Don't Break Down, but this expanded edition has stuff in it about gaslighting and dysfunctional codependency and things of that nature. It is called Break Up, Don't Break Down, the expanded edition. It's available on Audible and on Kindle, as well as in print. I think there may be a link for that book in the chat also. It is a great book if you've got a client or yourself going through a divorce or somebody that's just having a hard time getting over even someone's death or being in a dysfunctionally codependent relationship. It addresses the effects on children and how people use faith-based belief systems to guilt people into staying in this self-abusive situation. So I would strongly suggest, get a couple of copies and give it to your clients. And if they don't like to read, again, it's on Audible, so they can listen to it. But, everything that I create in my brand is just to make people have a better life. I believe that God put us, and I don't mean to offend anybody if you're not a faith-based person, but in my belief system, I believe we're all here for a reason. And if you chose to be a coach, that wasn't a decision, that was a calling. And it's because the crap you've gone through in life has given you the validation to help someone else get through something similar. So let's honor this calling. And the greatest way we can honor that is to perfect our gifts and talents and increase our competence as well as our capacity. Any last questions? Because I know we just got a couple of minutes. Comments?
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being you.
Thank you, Kim. That's so sweet. I appreciate that. Anyone else?
Very, very insightful session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything. As always, we learn so much just getting tools and nuggets of wisdom. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
You all. I want to also note that I have a link that I just put in the chat with some feedback that we'd love to receive from you. Your feedback helps us to bring more of this to you. And also we'd love to be able to share your feedback with Dr. Yvonne. So feel free to use that as well to give us some more thoughts. And thank you all for being here and for creating the space. We have our final Masterclass by Master Coaches this evening at 5:30 Eastern Time with Coach Lorraine Gedik. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. So I hope to see many, if not all of you, again this evening at 5:30.
Well, thank you. God bless you guys. And as I say on all media, I love you madly. Most sincerely, I do. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yvonne.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.